Hi there, and welcome to this week's midweek market analysis. Okay, so let's jump straight into the market right now. First off, let's take a look at the dollar index. So overall, for now, this week here, we're still expecting a little bit more downside for the dollar. And yesterday, we did see a little bit of a rejection around that 108 level, which potentially may have completed the wave 4 correction over here. And internally, we do see a very clear 1, 2, 3 as well. So right now, moving forward, as long as the market is able to maintain below 108, we're going to expect more downside with our first target around at 127 extension, where we project that wave 5 would probably end around that zone. The price point over here is around 104.65, yeah. So we're gonna see how the market react. I think more importantly, if I stretch this trend line a little bit, we want to see if we can get an impulsive break below this channel. If we can, then very high chance what we're seeing here is wave 4 has potentially been completed. Okay, so that's on the dollar perspective. So overall, we're maintaining a slightly bearish perspective on the DXY. Now, in terms of euro over here, as the dollar drops, we do see the euro dollar does push up a little bit. So overall, now I'm maintaining a rather neutral perspective. Price came quite close towards that trade too, but didn't really tag it. So at this moment, suggestion over here is to just stay out from euro dollar. This movement here is just not the clearest structure. Likely what can develop here is that this might go back up a little bit, and we might see another internal true wave down to form a bigger corrective structure. And if we were to be able to see this perhaps by next week or the following week, we'll have a very clear setup to look for a buy trade. Okay, but for now, it's a little bit too early to do that, and therefore we'll just maintain neutral and be patient and wait and see how the market develops. Now, pound dollar, we have been eyeing this for a couple of days. Overall, what I'm seeing over here is that this might be lacking the momentum. Okay, and this gives us a potential short-term reversal trade if the market can break below this low here at 1760 impulsively. Now, this can actually go up a little bit more to develop into a bigger crawl pattern that looks something like this before that drop. If it's the case, then we just remain patient. And if, let's say, this development indeed comes up to be a crawl, then we can actually shift our breakout point to a slightly better entry position to get involved in that reversal. Okay, but for now, I wouldn't be too aggressive and jump into a sell yet. I want to wait for a confirmation break at 1.1760. And the eventual target that we're looking out for right now on pound dollar, it'll be somewhere around 1.0930. Okay, obviously the market is not just gonna go straight down. Okay, but if we can get a break to the downside, we'll manage that position accordingly anyway. So pound dollar here does present an opportunity. Okay, and on Aussie dollar over here, the bias is quite clear. The momentum is definitely moving down in the short run. Kind of have a V-shaped formation here, and we are expecting a bit of the 50 and 618 retracement. Right now, there isn't a clear setup for me because this doesn't really look like a corrective pattern. But if you're more of an intraday setup, obviously if you go down to a lower time frame, you might spot something. You might spot an entry, you might spot a setup. So overall direction is, as long as the market is able to maintain below 6685, we do expect more downside. Okay, for the Aussie dollar over here, with potential target around 50 and 618, which brings you to 0.6530 and 0.6470. Okay, so that's an Aussie. And now on the dollar Canadian, we're still overall bearish. The head and shoulder pattern is still playing out pretty neat. We have a quite impulsive break, a retracement back towards the area retest that support broken turn resistance. We have that 618, the market reacted off that. So right now, we're expecting a continuation back to the downside. The level that I'm eyeing here is around 1.3295. Ideally, we want to get a impulsive break below that, or alternatively, what we can wait out for is this coming down to 3295. does a little bit of a corrective structure, that will be ideal, and we can take the breakout of this as well to the downside, right? So I think this here, the setup might come to us perhaps nearer towards Friday or even early next week, because on a 4-hour scale, for this to develop as a flag, we need to give it a bit of more time, right? So that's on the dollar Canadian. The direction is clear, the bias is clear. What we really need to wait out for is just that setup to come to us, right? And then we have the dollar yen. Dollar yen over here is quite similar to what we're seeing on the dollar index. Kind of have a wave 4 corrective structure, and the market is reacting right now around that trade to retracement. I'm not too eager to jump in now. I'm more interested to see if we can break that trend line, does a consolidation below that trend line. Then this would be an ideal setup around 139.60, and then take this trade down to 136.35. With, of course, by then the stop loss will be clear. It will be just at the intermediate high. Okay, so the direction on some of this pair here is quite clear, especially like pound dollar, dollar Canadian, and the dollar yen. We are definitely looking for more of a sell side. The only part here we are being patient is to wait for the setup to come to us. Alright, so overall dollar yen quite clear in the structure overall, and we're looking for downside. Now on gold over here, for those of you who managed to capitalize on that, earlier this week or late last week, congrats. A very nice decent sell trade that we have actually shared with you as well. So right now over here, based on today's development, I do expect a little bit of continuation to the downside, right? Because yesterday market just came back down and retest this 1732 level. It does have a little bit of a reaction and bounce, so that's why yesterday suggestion was to maintain a neutral perspective. But for today over here, we can see that the market kind of respected this trend line very nicely, did a reaction back down around 1750. So right now here, I'm expecting potentially a continuation downside towards 1700. Okay, the confirmation level is definitely on this low, and what we want to see is a very clean and nice break below 1732. At best, it does a little bit of a consolidation below that, and this should continue. Right, so the setup comes is we want to see a strong break below 1732, and that would be the setup for us to get involved in. Okay, so keep an eye on gold. I think that would be also a pretty decent opportunity to look up for. And then on crude oil, is coming in very neat in terms of the structure is very clear, the directional bias is very clear, but of course in terms of timing, we need to just give it time. Okay, why? Because we do have this little bottom and we have a very nice V-shaped reaction. So right now what we are waiting for is simply a correction to develop here. Potential expectation is of course the 50 and 618 retracement. If you can get that, then we have a very nice little buy trade all the way back targeting at 94. Okay, so the structure is clean. The directional bias is again very obvious. What we simply need is just to wait for that setup to come to us, right? So again, just be patient. This one here, you probably need to wait until like early next week, okay? But when the setup comes, you get a high quality trade on this. And then we have the S&P, right? So S&P over here, yesterday we did get a break above this little channel. Overall, I'm still bullish, and we are expecting one more pushback towards that 4130 area. Just one thing to take note is that this can still potentially come back down before that push to give us another, kind of corrective setup like that. The reason is because this break, we want to see, of course, some momentum to follow through. If we don't, and this then, reverses back, then this can also turn into a smaller corrective. So this turns into 1, 2, 3, then that push, right? So just be careful. Ideally, by today we should see that continuation momentum to the upside. If not, then that starts to build up the possibility of a shorter term retracement before another move. Okay, the overall direction is still the same. We're still looking for one more push to the upside. I think it's more of just the timing in terms of like when will we likely see that momentum coming in. Okay, so if you're looking at the equities market, in general, then just take note of some of this possibility. You definitely want to keep an eye on how the market is going to develop today. So that's all for me for today's video over here. All the best to trading and manage your risks, and I'll see you guys in the next one.